Hello everyone, my name is Caitlin Hall and I conducted an internship under Dr. Murat Kassira evaluating LEDs as a supplemental light source for the lunar greenhouse prototype at the Controlled Environment Agriculture Center in Tucson. I first found out about this internship after being suggested to apply to it from my biology professor after I expressed an interest in applying biology to environmental and engineering systems. The goal of the lunar greenhouse prototype is to provide a sustainable bioregenerative life support system that would not only provide a nutritional but also an environmental supplement to astronauts and those in remote environments. So, for example, all of our research we actually discussed with a sister base at the South Pole called the South Pole Food Growth Chamber. Our results were hoping to compile to allow for a carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen balance that in a recycling system. So the lunar greenhouse is under a constant reevaluation to reduce resource consumption. Currently in the lunar greenhouse, we're using a water-jacketed high-pressure sodium lamp that requires an extensive cooling system as well as a lot of energy input just to run. So my individual study was actually to evaluate and characterize two different LED panels for potential use in the lunar greenhouse that would not only allow for an environmental supplement but also sustain healthy plant growth. The two LEDs that I was looking at were a air-cooled red, blue, and orange LED panel as well as a water-cooled white LED panel. The white LED panel was actually modified with a water-jacketed system similar to that of the high-pressure sodium lamps, as water cooling was and is an effective method in cooling these LED panels down. As you can see, the red, blue, and orange panel put out a pink light while the white LED emitted a very white light. When we were looking at preliminary results, we were looking at not only the intensity of the lights, but also the wavelengths that were represented by these LED panels and the spatial uniformity. What we found from the white LED was almost all of the wavelength spectrums were being represented by the white light, as well as the uniformity of these lights was really significant. Unfortunately, the actual intensity of these white lights was lacking. So if we wanted to use them, we'd have to have them into an array. But we actually found that having these white lights in an array was an effective method to grow plants. As in the Lunar Greenhouse Outreach and Teaching module, we were able to sustain healthy plant growth for several months in Chicago. Now for the red, blue, and orange LED, we found that less of the wavelengths were being represented by this light, however the intensity was very significant. Additionally, the uniformity from this light wasn't as high as we were hoping, and if we were to use this inside the lunar greenhouse, we would have to arrange them in a way that might not be as conducive with our desire to save space. After this success for the Lunar Greenhouse Outreach Teaching module using those water-cooled white LEDs, we took it a step further from preliminary results and we actually looked at what these white LEDs looked like in a dodecahedron. A dodecahedron was chosen because it's similar to a sphere, which would allow for a 360-degree look at the light output from these LEDs. Something I really enjoyed about this internship was my ability to walk into the lab, build and modify things, and actually use them in experimentation. However, when I was modifying this dodecahedron to fit my needs, I didn't anticipate the height of the dodecahedron, which is pretty significant, and I was able to go next door to where the actual lunar greenhouse is, call on one of my coworkers, Michael Downing, to assist me in sensor placement. And that was something that was also very memorable about this experience, is that we all worked together and all of the students became very close-knit and we became friends as we're doing this experimentation, and it was very exciting to see what others had to say about things, because we had somebody that was involved in controlled environments and then a plant scientist, and then you also had biosystems and agricultural engineers, and it was just a really spectacular melting pot. Additionally, something that was also very exciting about this internship was taking it a couple steps further after the preliminary results. So once you find out about these basic characteristics, you always want to see, if they're successful, you want to see what they look like further. So we went from the 2D method of just having those preliminary results, and then we looked a little bit further at the dodecahedron. But since these white LEDs were able to sustain healthy plant growth in the OTM, we wanted to see what they looked like in an array. And something that we didn't anticipate, as you can see here, was the total heat that would be produced by these lamps. And after a slight malfunction, and after monitoring the temperature from these LED panels, we were able to determine the heat flow analysis from these panels to see what might have happened during this malfunction. We're still not exactly sure what happened, and that's one of the exciting things about experimentation, but we were able to see the effects of it on a more scientific level. So we were able to see that once one of the fittings might not have been secured tightly enough, but we were able to see the effects of the temperature changes from these water-cooled LEDs once one fitting was no longer functioning. And we were able to see that from the graph shown. And that was something else that was really exciting about this internship, was actually getting 16 of these white LEDs, putting them in the lunar greenhouse skeleton, and taking it from a very basic understanding of these lights to seeing what it would look like if I were to apply them into the lunar greenhouse to actually grow plants. And one of the whole points of this internship was to see an energy balance analysis of the lights. And we did a very basic workup and analysis for the energy balance, and found expectantly that the white LEDs required more energy than the red, blue, and orange. However, for our purposes, we were willing to sacrifice a little bit of energy efficiency for them to satisfy the rest of our requirements. And this is a little bit of our team. And if I were to, we actually did a dinner at Old Pueblo Grill as a reflection meeting for the documentary that was recorded about the lunar greenhouse, and also current applications of controlled environments. And that's something that was really exciting, was to see what other people were thinking about the research we were doing. And if I were to recommend this internship to anyone, it would be those who want to actually apply what they're doing in classes to something that you might not have an immediate deliverable, but this is something that is going to have an impact later. So while you're not doing something that's commercially available right now, the work that you're doing is still significant. And anyone who wants to get in the shop and actually apply their skills, this is the kind of internship that's for you. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy.